Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's having a good conference. I'm glad to be here. Appreciate having this event put together and excited to see some of you who I know and some new faces that I don't. My name is Trent Northcutt. I'm joined here today with Matt Goldstone. I'm the CEO of the company. Matt Goldstone is my Chief Business Officer. And I'm going to go a couple different slides with you about Aurora and what we're doing. Forward-looking statements. So we're located in Carlsbad, California. Just a quick flight from here to there. So we're located in a town called Carlsbad, California. It's about 35 miles north of downtown San Diego. We opened up in 2024. We're a publicly traded company on the Toronto Exchange. And we have 18 full-time employees, in-house engineering, new-house in manufacturing, and of course, prototyping and a quality control system that makes sure that our implants are of the latest quality. So we developed a portfolio of solutions that both cross over in between pain and orthopedic spine. So orthopedic spine, neurospine surgeons, and now interventional doctors that work in the world of pain treatment and now even more procedure driven. So they're able to put an implant into the doctor and actually provide something for the doctor to help the patient outside of an opioid or an injection, an actual real implant to go in there and stop that motion. So a couple different slides here on the timelines. We first started the company. I'm going to cross over here so I can read it. We launched it. We went public right away. We went public without even having our first product approved. We went public out on the Toronto Exchange. It was a good opportunity for us. We had an investment to come in out of Canada and allowed us to get started right away on the Toronto Exchange. Our first product got our FDA approval in the beginning of 2014. We did an OUS launch before the FDA approval to get the product into the European market to get a testing area and got really good results early on, clinically speaking, and then got, of course, the FDA approval, and then started filing patents rapidly on different technologies that were all designed for spine. In 2015, we got our first secondary offering of a $10 million investment. We continued on with some more European sales across Europe, and we had our first Tinano approval, which was a interbody device. And I'm going to show you some of these products so you guys get a better idea when I say Tinano and Zip. And in 2016, the Zip implant was first implanted. The first patent was issued, and then 4 new patents were quickly followed after that, also to stack onto the different technology that we had in the pipeline. And then we received our CE mark outside of that in certain markets outside of Europe. So we were able to go into places like Israel. We were able to go into places, Saudi Arabia, and some different markets outside. And then we got another patent issued on the polyaxial system. Tinano got extended off of its patent portfolio. And then we implanted over 100 different devices up in Canada, which shows up there on the 2018. And we, again, got more patents added on to different technologies in our portfolio. So 2019, same continued on. We got another extension onto a new patent onto the Zip technology. And then first interventional multi-center study was launched. And this is where Aurora went into the mode of treating patients in the pain interventional market outside of orthopedic spine, neurospine. So it really allowed us to cross over and become a kind of a crossover company. New pain care division announced right before the beginning of, but in fact, that pain meeting was actually here in Las Vegas. And then shortly afterwards, as we all know, the world changed, right? So we were able to stay focused on our goals as a company, fight through the headwinds of the COVID and keep ourselves afloat and move forward. The DEXA technology got added to the portfolio as part of our patent. This was a product that I'm going to go into more detail on here and why I think it's important to share with you and how we're able to actually, for the first time, match the patient's bone density to our implant, which has never been done before. In 2021, the Silo, which was an SI joint system, was released for the treatment of SI joint pain and also crossover between ortho, neuro, and interventional doctors. We worked with Latham Partners, got ourselves listed onto the OTCQB, excuse me. And we then got a new 510K approval on the DEXA-C and the Apollo cervical plate system for cervical fusion. And then motion preservation was added to an extension on a patent issued to us. And the Silo TFX, Silo SI joint system, we got the 510K cleared on that. That was a 4-year project that came to closure. And then with the DEXA technology, we actually won the 2022 Orthopedic Spine Technology Award. So orthopedics really recognized what we had accomplished. And then here we are today, and we've actually performed some of these first surgeries with these technologies. And now we're out of the R&D phase of the company. All the patents that had been granted, the biomechanics that had been going on, and the development of these products now to come to 2023. So most recently, what we've accomplished just recently, within the last 6 months, is we were able to generate more sales growth, more revenues of the company, increase our margins. So we were able to get all the products that we've been developing into getting available to the market into the actual market and actually creating sales with those products. We extended our, we had a positive EBITDA in and out of last year. We were just right on that cusp of getting to the point of profitability, dropping below a little bit and then going back up and constantly pushing it up as we were closing down our R&D, lowering our costs as a company, getting more of the products out there and lowering that R&D phase so we could have more commercialization available. The stenosis indication was just another win for the company to be able to treat the patient's prognosis, where the doctor is looking to treat them in a certain way. We got this indication added on to one of our legacy products. In the Silo TFX, we got the 510K approval. This is one of the most challenging devices I ever, in my career, ever had to get approved. It took us over 4 times submitting with the FDA. It was very challenging, and I'll share those with you in my one-on-ones with you guys tomorrow, the ones who have that scheduled with me. It was a great uphill climb, and I'm really glad we got to the finish line on that. And then the DEXA-L was also part of the line extension of DEXA technology, and as I mentioned, we won the award in orthopedics. So what does this all mean? So spine surgery and the market overview, right? The majority of spine surgery is targeted for generating pain in the patient's spine and something, let me just clear this up here. And surgeries are involved in a damaged disc or some type of protrusion within the spinal column. This is going from your neck all the way down to your low back. So you got 7 cervical levels, you got 12 thoracic levels, and you got 5 lumbar levels. Anything beyond that, you start getting into your sacrum, into your SI joint, into your back of your pelvis, right? So this is your sections of your body that we focus on. We only focus on these areas. So the doctor has to make a determination, wherever the pain is being generated, if it's in their hips, is it in their SI joint, is it in their low back, is it in the middle of their back, or is it indeed all the way up into their cervical? So these are part of the vertebrae that are fused in how we come together and bring these products into each one of these segments. It's obviously a quite large market. So the spine market is an estimated $9.6 billion U.S. market. The market is growing at a +3 annual. 80% of the market is supplied by companies, the big companies, your Medtronics, your Johnson & Johnson's, and some of these other companies, Strykers, I'm sure these companies you heard of, Zimmer's, very large orthopedic companies. But in our opinion, the large companies are the companies that acquire. The small companies, the MicroCap companies like Aurora, this is where innovation is. And this is the innovation sector where these companies, the large companies, come to pick up technology. So the back pain and the patient options for them. So back pain market, 30+ million suffer from a lower back pain. 13 million go direct to the doctor, chronic pain. In fact, some people know this, some people don't, but the second reason why a patient misses time at work is because of their back. Number one being the common cold and flu, right? So just having the cold or having the flu, they just call in sick for work. The second reason anywhere is for back pain. So 8 out of 10 adults in the U.S. will experience some type of back pain. One of the main reasons employees, again, major costs, that's economic loss and productivity, is that the patient can't make it into, that particular employee can't make it into the office. So the treatments are quite simple. Fill them up with a bunch of medications, fill them up with a bunch of physical therapy, try all these things to try to get that patient back on their feet. But really what happens at the end is when none of those treatments work for them, they have some type of an implant that gets put into them, something that's going to stabilize their back, create a lumbar fusion, create a cervical fusion. I know you guys have friends and loved ones that have had this procedure performed on them. The drivers for us, and again, we're going to go some of these technologies individually. So we currently have 3 major drivers that we think are important for you to understand. Your takeaway message is why Aurora. Is one, our entry into the pain market, which was a very large market and allowed us to play into the orthopedic spine, the neurospine market, and the interventional market, right? The interventional market alone outnumbers the ortho and the neurospine market by 6 to 1, estimated. So it's a very large segment of the market that's just allowed us to expand our call points and our sales opportunities within the company. 2, the ZIP products that you saw earlier on in my slides of the timelines. We spent a lot of time getting patents. We spent a lot of time getting extensions onto the patents, extensions into the diagnosis of the product to be treating of that particular patient. Spent a lot of time in that. Same with the Silo and the DEXA-C, which I'll talk to you about, these clinical studies, and then the DEXA technology platform, which is beyond just any individual product, a much larger vision of the company. Again, this just touches on the pain management side of things. The global pain market, device market, expected to exceed $14.5 billion by 2026. So a very large CAGR of 13%. So the growth aspect of this is changing because many of these pain interventional doctors are now not just pain doctors, they're actually said interventional physicians doing procedures, actually doing outpatient procedures where they're putting a mechanical fixation into the patient instead of the opioid, instead of the injection, instead of just the physical therapy. They're actually putting something in there and getting that patient's micromotion, that pain eliminated by devices like Aurora. So for those of you, this is being telecasted, then I'm going to walk through the color play-by-play on this to kind of show you a little bit more about Aurora. So on this particular animation, it shows some of the technologies that we worked on, and this is also going to show what it looked like at some of the trainings that we performed. In this room here, you'll see that this is filled with interventional doctors, orthopedic doctors, and neurospine doctors learning and teaching each other about these technologies. And these men and women are in here learning about our technologies and allows them to go into a cadaver course for the first time and actually get their hands on it to see how this is going to work in their practice. So we'll do the didactic sessions with them. We'll tell them how to get coding reimbursement. We'll tell them how the procedure is performed. They'll get hands-on experience on how and why this product can be used in their hands, in their practice, in their communities, and help Aurora's product portfolio grow and expand. So we entered into a multi-center study with many of these individuals you see in these pictures here and got these doctors really, really excited. And we started collaborating where we had the orthopedic, the neuro, and the interventional doctor for the first time coming together, doing surgical procedures, outpatient screwless procedures, outpatient procedures that the patient walks in the surgery center and goes home the same day, all within a couple hours. Not a long-term stay at the hospital, not a long-term stay in some cold building that they don't want to be in. They want to get home to rest. So these men and women have really embraced this. And as you can see, it's very, very minimally invasive, very small incisions, and very good work that the men and women are doing. So every single training course that we ran last year was filled just like this. It was filled to capacity. We ran courses in Austin, Texas, Dallas, Texas, Las Vegas, Nashville, Florida, Miami, Florida, and we got really good responses out of this, and it also helped increase the revenues of the company as we got through the R&D phase. So let me talk to you about the first real product you heard me talk a lot about early on, the ZIP device. The ZIP device is a screwless procedure meant for lumbar fusion. By show of hands, who knows somebody who's had a lumbar fusion? Right, so a good percentage of you have know people who have had a lumbar surgery. Many of you will have lumbar surgery directly in your own family, in your own individual people that you know. They'll have a procedure performed. What this particular device does, it allows the doctor to make a small incision and allows the implant to be placed in between the vertebra on the outside of the vertebra, not inside of the vertebra. And this is done to the back side here, so the back side of your body. And then implanted down, and then you grip. Time. It allows the procedure to reduce the operating room time 36% versus typical pedicle screws. Shorten the hospital stay because we're really talking about just doing it at an outpatient surgery center versus the hospital. And my favorite stat of all of this, really clean procedure, meaning there's not a lot of blood, not a lot of morbidity, lower risks of infection. So really, really pristine, low profile. And then this is an extension of the product. This happens to be called the ZIP 51. So you have like I said, you have 5 lumbar vertebrae. So L5S1 is your low back. And this is why we created a separate device that actually fixates onto your L5S1. So in December 2020, like I said, we commercialized a multi-center study, a multi-center study where we brought these doctors together. And there's a quote down here you can read as I'm talking about the other bullet points, but we really got some fantastic results. 82% of the patients reported improvement, and we're feeling fantastic about their procedure. Again, it was an incision about this big. They were able to walk into the surgery center and walk out the same day. Not a bunch of screws put in them, not a long construct, not big incisions put in their back, very small incisions for the patient. Easy procedure for the doctor. So we're continuing this multi-center study. The device was both effective and safe for these patients, and we're going to continue to follow these patients. We're going to finish a 2-year follow-up, and then we're going to do a 3-year follow-up, and maybe even go as far as 5 years on just to continue to follow up on this, because we don't expect these patients to have to come back for this particular procedure. You don't have to remove it. It stays in the patient for the lifetime of the procedure. The second device that really came through these cadaver courses, these labs that we started teaching, was this silo procedure. And who here knows somebody in their family has an SI pain? Nobody? Got one back there? Okay. So I have one at home. My wife has an SI pain, and she, complains about it all the time. Rolls herself over the pillow on the couch and has to, raise herself up to get that lift off of that SI joint pain. And many of you just deal with it, but some people get to the point where they just can't deal with it anymore. It just becomes too much of a pain, and they have to do a series of injections to try to numb that pain to go away, because the physical therapy is not working, the stretching hasn't worked, and now on into an actual procedure. So with us, we created a very small incision, another way to just put an implant in here. And this happens to be one of the largest growing markets, which we were already in the development phases early on with our company. And now we've come into a point where we've been able to commercialize this particular device. The implant's the size of a penny. If you hold a penny and put our implant right there, the same size. Very small implant, because you instant relief, able to perform procedure in an hour or less, and you walk in and you walk out. And it's just like that. Top reimbursements. Again, surgery center driven. You don't have to go to a big cold hospital. You can go right to your local surgery center and get the procedure performed. The second phase of our SI joint product is a patented product. I like to talk about patents because a lot of people talk about a device or a product that they've created, but they haven't patented it. They just made it, and then eventually it's just going to get knocked off by the competition. And I assure you, companies like Johnson & Johnson and Stryker and Zimmer and so forth are good at copying things, right? They're not the big gorillas in the room because of their good looks. So this particular device is an issued patent. It's a crossover product, as I mentioned, between ortho, neuro, and pain. This is the product that took the most. This is why I have as many gray hairs as I do. It took the longest to get it approved with the FDA. It was a substantial evidence-based proof that we had to get to the FDA so they would approve the product. And we've been selling this product now since February of this year. Got it FDA approved in October, started building up the instrument sets on this. Instrument sets are reusable kits that are used in surgery. The implants are put into the patient, and then the kits are sent back to the office on its way to the next procedure. And we keep rolling these kits out to these surgeries around the country, ultimately to put an implant in that patient and ultimately get this patient back to feeling good. So we've launched this here in the first half of this year, and we're going to continue to roll this out. And by mid-year, we'll be into from an out of the alpha phase into a full beta phase release of this product. And as I touched on earlier, we think this is a very large segment of the market that's going to have good growth, key drivers for the company. And here's a couple recent films that we took. And you can see here, this is our screwless zip product, as I mentioned here on film. And this is an actual SiLO TFX implant. And this is what pedicle screws look like. Now, I didn't put all 4 of them in there, but there's 4 of these big old screws put in you. And this is what we're trying to stay away from. We're trying to be a screwless procedure, a way to create more minimally invasive approach to these patients. So very low and compact, small incision, about the size of a nickel incision size, so this big for this particular product. And of course, pedicle screws is much larger than here in this image is our screwless procedure, so no screws whatsoever put into that patient. So I mentioned that there was a third factor. It's the DEXA technology. So one of the proudest achievements that we have at Aurora is that we were able to actually work on a patent that was right in the spotlight of 3D printed manufacturing. I'm sure many of you heard of 3D printed, right? Well, we'll just 3D print it. Great. Medical implant companies thought the same thing. Well, I'll just 3D print it. Well, what they typically did is they 3D printed technology that already existed in their portfolio. All they did is just 3D print it instead of machine it. And there's different materials out there. There's polymers, there's titanium, there's stainless steels, there's organics, there's biologics. There's a lot of different things. But 3D printing primarily for orthopedic is just 3D printed titanium. But this allows the implant to go in and actually be measured in advance that there is a green zone, which is considered normal and healthy bone. If the patient has osteoporosis or the presence of osteopenia, that the implant can be made to actually match that patient's bone density. And we were able to do this with our technology. So we are really thrilled that the DEXA technology is now FDA approved, has been implanted now since February of last year and continues to gain momentum. In fact, recently it was approved the American Academy of Neurosurgeons, and it was presented on the podium, and we're showing that this product is giving unbelievable clinical results early on. We're now going into a multi-center study. It's already FDA approved, so we're actually implanting this product right now. And this product is going to be an entire platform for the company that everything that we make will be able to match the patient's bone density. The bone stiffness correlates with bone quality. This product biomimics actual human real bone in a 3D printed technology. The DEXA, which is the name of the product, tunes itself closely to match the patient's bone density. It minimizes the risk of subsidence or failure, if you will, for the procedure. And it now has a quick 3-dimensional osteo integration of the system, provides that bony ingrowth and vascularization, which was never heard of before, did not exist. And now it does. And again, as you saw, some of this looks familiar. You saw some of the TFX, and now other technologies, including technologies that we don't make. Total hip replacement, total knee replacement, shoulder replacement, jawbone replacement, maxillofacial, dental implants, big segment, a way of matching the patient's bone to that implant. So this is quickly going to show how on this particular animation, it shows how just in the cervical space, it allows the implant to be fit right between the patient's vertebra. And this particular implant is green, so this means this patient had normal bone or healthy bone, and allowed the doctor to predetermine this preoperatively or in the operating room for the first time. The doctor can make a pivot. You might actually have a bad bone segment and you didn't even know you had it, but now the doctor can make a pivot and change. So this is one of our technologies, which is a cervical fusion. I'm sure you've heard of a cervical fusion. Thoracolumbar is tied together. You got 12 thoracic lumbar. You got 5 lumbar vertebra. And this is the screwless procedure. That's how nice this product fits right in there. And there's your Zip 51. And then we'll go down to your SI joint segment, where people who have this, sorry, another part of the DEXA technology, you have your SI joint into your back part of your hip. And this is the SiLO and the SiLO TFX implant that's going to pop up right here. And now you can see how small this is and how where it fits into the body, just right into these areas right here where the pain has actually affected the patient. So again, we got through the R&D phase, and now we're just starting to get into a commercialization phase, starting to grow our revenues, work towards profitability. We feel like 2023 is our breakout year. I'm going to fly through these, but I'm happy to meet with anyone individually tomorrow and go over each one of these. And where we think that the 2023 campaign is well under its way, where we've seen really good clinical results. We've seen an increase in sales revenues in the company, and of course, better profitability because our margins have increased because the products are now out and we're out of the R&D phase. This is right, yep. And again, we saw that how each segment of our product as it got released, that we were able to increase on the sales revenues. Currently, the stock price is very low. It's a great time. Allows us to commercialize out. We've got a $14 million market cap that we think is well undervalued. These are some of the bullet points on here. Now I'll come to this one another time. Any questions? I'll leave it there. She has them, but she's actually considering doing it. And she was actually holding out because we had the allograft, the small little penny-sized implant. But now that we got the TFX that has the larger diameter, it's got the screws that go into it, she felt like maybe that would be a better procedure for her. So yeah, she probably could be a candidate for it. It's very common in women post childbirth. And yes, I have a small little 16-month-old kid running around, and it's very common in women who've had kids. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, well, take a look at our website, auroraspine.com, and take a look at that DEXA technology. I assure you, you're not going to want to have just a Me Too implant put in you and your loved ones. DEXA technology for the first time matches your bone, and everyone's bone in this room is different. And it varies from segment to segment, and that's going to be a key driver for Aurora. I thank you all.